welcome to the story of how I created Universal Battlegrounds, my first Roblox fighting game. This project was a journey through scripting, modeling, and a lot of planning. I'll be taking you through the ups, the downs, and everything in between, including all the changes that came with developing the game. Let's get into it. This whole journey began with a simple idea, a fighting game where players could summon a stand to battle alongside them. I've always been inspired by anime and fighting games, so I wanted to make something unique in the Roblox space. Something where combat strategy, timing, and creativity all mattered. But I didn't just want to make a game that worked. I wanted a game with a solid foundation, something I could keep building on as new ideas came to me. One of the first challenges was creating the stand itself. I wanted to start with a stand inspired by Star Platinum, a staple character from JoJo Bizarre Adventure. Fans would instantly be able to recognize him. I used Blender to model, sculpt, and rig the stand. And while I do have skills in Blender, it was still a learning process. Unlike other platforms like Unreal Engine, Roblox has strict requirements on poly counts and optimization, which makes sense because Roblox games are meant to run smoothly on anything, from a high-end PC to a basic smartphone, so my models had to be efficient, especially during these chaotic battles where there could potentially be dozens of stands fighting at once. Now, getting the stand into Roblox Studio was a big milestone, and there's a lot to it. Roblox's content moderation kept flagging my stand anytime I would upload it. It saw the torso specifically and kept flagging it. And anytime I would later go and make another change, I would have to re-upload the model and it would have to go back through Roblox's content moderation. It was frustrating, especially since each time I uploaded it, it was rechecked, and there was one specific time where someone didn't approve it and I had to wait till later to resubmit it. Eventually, after a lot of trial and error, the model got approved, there were no more tweaks I wanted, and I could move on to animating. Rigging the stand was the next major step, giving it a skeleton so it could move properly. This was essential for making sure the stand could execute animation smoothly. After that, I moved on to animating the stand, from basic idle animations to punches and the skill moves. Seeing the stand punch for the first time was one of those moments where I could finally see the game coming together. But it also made me realize just how much more work there was to do. With the stand animated, it was time to bring it to life. I got a pretty decent understanding of programming languages like Java, JavaScript, and Python, but this was my first time building a video game completely from scratch. Roblox uses Lua, so I had to adapt and learn as I went. I started by scripting the core mechanics, just summoning the stand, making it follow the player, giving it basic punching abilities. One of the biggest challenges was ensuring that everything wasn't just functional, but also modular. In other words, it would be able to be reused down the road no matter how many stands or abilities I started to add. As I added more stands and abilities in the future, the code was reusable and I wouldn't have to redo it every single time. For example, I created the blocking system as its own separate module script. This way, any future stand could reference it without me having to rewrite the whole thing. It's also about working smarter, not harder. And as a beginner, I had to figure out what needed to be modular and what modular even meant, and that was a big learning curve. One of the most frustrating parts of the development process was the blocking system. Initially, it was just a simple hitbox generated in front of the stand. It worked fine, until it didn't. Suddenly, punches stopped dealing damage and I had no idea why. I spent almost 2 weeks trying to figure out what broke. I had to go line by line, testing different parts of the script, rewriting the logic, and checking all the references. It turned out I had to make a big change. I had to create a whole new hitbox system. Instead of generating the part that was invisible that would check if it hit, I had raycasting, which means as each individual part punched, it would be able to generate its own path without a box. So it was more in line with actual punching, how it works in real life, but was a lot more to implement. That experience taught me a lot about perseverance. Game development is full of these moments where everything works perfectly until it doesn't. And when it breaks, it's your job to figure out why and fix it. Now, as a solo developer, I knew I couldn't do this alone. Instead of searching forums and sifting through pages of documentation, I turned to ChatGPT. This AI became my go-to assistant for troubleshooting or refining scripts. I want to be clear. I didn't just ask ChatGPT to give me a mechanic and then copy and paste it into my game. It's a lot more complicated than that. I use it to refine my own scripts, adapt tutorials, and make sure everything fit my specific needs. It was like having an instant programming buddy who could help me troubleshoot tiny mistakes or rework a script to be more efficient. The biggest issue I faced was making sure it didn't forget small tweaks I had made. If I didn't tell it about a change, it might reference a non-existent script or change something that would make the game break. But as long as I was careful, it saved me an incredible amount of time. Much more than browsing forums, to be honest, really could. With the core mechanics in place, it was time to build the environment. I wanted an arena that felt dynamic, but also was optimized for smooth gameplay. Specifically from part 5, I created the Coliseum and built it from scratch and placed it in. There were a lot more issues that came with that, but to save time, I think I'll just keep it at that. Right now, Universal Battlegrounds is one stand and a few skill moves, but this is only the beginning. I want to add more stands, each with unique abilities, and eventually, I'd love to include ultimate abilities with cutscenes that make the game feel even more cinematic. And now that I have a solid base, I can focus on expanding the game, making it bigger and better. There's so much potential here, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Creating Universal Battlegrounds has been an incredible experience full of challenges and rewards. If you ever thought about making your own game, I hope this video inspired you to start. It's not easy, but every challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out Universal Battlegrounds on Roblox. There's much more to come, and I'm excited to share this journey more with you all.